96, let's go back to 96. And you were offered this fantastic opportunity by Borum to run the World Rally team. And you turned it down. You turned it down, you said no, because you wanted to stay up here in glorious Cumbria. That all changed though, didn't it, over the course of, what, 6 months? They wanted you that badly.
I wouldn't say they wanted me that badly, but certainly it all changed in the next 6 months, that's for sure. We went to Finland with Jarmo Kaitaletto and Harry Rovanperä and finished on the podium, finished third overall. And that then basically was the catalyst, I think, to open the door to start negotiating again, because, you know, Ford were looking to outsource the program.
So the biggest issue, the biggest stumbling block, Malcolm, was that you, as we know, you are a Cumbria boy born and bred, and you really felt that Cumbria was where you could base your business from. But, you know, the World Championship, motorsport hadn't seen anything like it. You were either in Oxfordshire, you were in major cities, and you wanted to stay in Cumbria.
Yeah, I mean, there's no question. There was, as you can imagine at the time, there was lots of people who said, well, it's not possible to do it from Cumbria, we'll give it 12 months, you know, it'll be back down south. But I've been to Cumbria, and then I was determined for sure to make sure that we could make it work. And of course we had a great start. Monte Carlo, Carlos finished second, Armin Schwartz was sixth. And we came very close to winning the championship in the first year. It was only because of a mechanical failure in Australia that we really lost the Drivers' Championship with Carlos.
But let's wind back to GB 96, where you were given the contract. And then, obviously, as you say, Carlos, he's the king of rallying at the time. And he's told that, no, we're not going to base ourselves in Borum anymore. Go and see Malcolm in Cumbria. And this is where you brought him to. It's astonishing. At the time, it was Malcolm Wilson Motorsport, soon to become M Sport. But tell us about that first trip with Carlos and bringing him up here.
It was certainly, I think it was a big shock to Carlos, to be honest, to come here and see. I think the first thing he said was, "What, the program's going to be run from here?" I said, "Yeah," and of course, you know, the main offices and most of the office and everything were held in my house at the time, because we didn't literally have the room and what have you. So I think it was a big shock to him, and there's no question, there's no denying it. Carlos and I had, in the early days, we had our battles, but I think eventually, you know, he could see exactly the direction that I wanted to go. I knew what I wanted to do with the car because I'd lived with the Escort and the Sierra, so we did quite a lot of technical changes, which obviously improved the car with the great wins in Acropolis and Indonesia, the 1-2. So yeah, it wasn't the easiest of starts, but at the end of the season, it was a great season in our first year.
An incredible first year, you know, and the progress in those 12 months. You know, Carlos obviously understood that Ford had absolute faith in you. He then had absolute faith in you. But when he did come here, it was a bit of a shock to him. There were, what, 19 people, I think. You know, ultimately there were 95 or so people working here. But it was all hands on deck to achieve those incredible results in that first year, I guess.
Yeah, I mean, when he arrived here, I think it was straight after RSC Rally in '96, and of course, literally, it was the week of the rally that the programme had been announced that we were getting it. So we literally had 18 people, and then we ended up going to Monte Carlo with close to 100 people. So you can imagine there was a lot of growing pains, like any business. You know, when you have that much of an influx of people, then it's inevitable that there's going to be, you know, some growing pains.
But some incredible, you know, I suppose keeping things local and supporting the local community, what you get in return is remarkable loyalty. You know, and I suppose Cumbria, much as you owe a debt of gratitude to Cumbria was a big debt of gratitude to Malcolm Wilson and to M Sport, because it's brought some remarkable people to this part of the world, and the loyalties all round are there, aren't they?
Yeah, I mean, if you look at the time that a lot of the staff have been with us, it's quite remarkable. You know, some of them have been there since even '93, '94 when it was Malcolm Wilson Motorsport, and at the end of the day, you know, it's the people in M Sport. It's made M Sport what it is. To be honest, I couldn't do it on my own, that's for sure. And as you say, we've had some tremendous loyalty, and we've had some tremendous people with great ability and skill, which has enabled us to do the job that we've done from this part of the world.
Tell us, Malcolm, then a little bit about what we've got behind us here. So the big brown doors, that was the main workshop? main entrance next door. Talk us through what we had here.
Yeah, I mean, basically, the bottom part of the building that you see there that was the workshop. We could literally work on, I think it was 7 cars, a maximum 7 cars.
That's quite impressive.
Originally, this was an old barn which we completely renovated the whole thing. The workshop was new, but it was almost built on the original footprint of the original barn. And then you had the reception and the offices upstairs. We had logistics and everything upstairs. But I mean, literally at that point in time, we had shipping containers here, and there were things like the transmission shop. We had another shed up at the end of that building, which was the body shop. And it was pretty congested, as you can imagine, because we ended up literally with about 90 people here before we then moved to Devonby.
So that was something that you quickly realised, much as Malcolm Wilson Motorsport had done well here and had won the contract here, you realised 97 early on that you were going to have to find somewhere new, and that's when the search began that ultimately ended up at Devonby Hall.
Yeah, to be honest, I actually started to look prior to even getting the Ford contract, because we were starting, I felt even with 18 people, we were starting to outgrow this facility, and I felt I needed another platform to build on. So of course it put a lot more emphasis on really then trying to find somewhere as soon as possible. But I really wanted to create something that was a bit special, totally different. The easiest thing for me to have done would have been to go to a brownfield site and just build a modern industrial building, but I wanted to create something so that when people came and thought about, because to be honest, there was so much talk about it'll not last in Cumbria, it can't, So I wanted to create something that when people came and made them think that, well, if they wanted to move this program back down south, it's going to cost them a lot of money. So that was part of my thinking as well, with Devonby.
It required an awful lot of vision, really, a huge amount of ambition, a huge amount of self-belief, but a real clear vision of where you wanted to go, to take it from here, from what was effectively your back garden. It's a garden shed. It's a bit more than a garden shed, but that's effectively what it was, to take that proposition to the biggest motoring company in the world, to their number 1 motorsport program, to bring it here to Cumbria, and then to have that vision to say, actually, this is how we're going to keep it here. 25, 30 years later, we are still here and still expanding and still looking to improve.
Yeah, well, I always believe, that if you stand still in business, you're dead. And, this obviously now, the next project with the MEC and the test track, then basically we're running out of room. We've got 115 acres at Devonby, but by the time everything's completed, then there will be very little room for much more expansion. So who knows what will happen after that, but it's definitely, as I say, at this point in time, I just feel to stand any chance, you've got to keep moving forward. But
you haven't slowed down. You really haven't slowed down. You're still pushing ahead, you're still pushing on hard, you're still looking to the future.
Very, very much so. And I mean, particularly now with this difficult situation that we're in with COVID-19, it's been the most difficult period in my business life, to be honest, because sadly I've had to let around 70 people go, make them redundant, and a lot of those people have been with us for a lot of years and have been an integral part of the team. So it's going to be an even bigger challenge, to be honest, to get back to hopefully where we were. But I've made the commitment to all my staff and everything that I'm prepared to take on that challenge, and I certainly want to see this new project that I started finished, the MEC, and I want to see that fully functional, operational, and then who knows what will happen after that.